time you head to the banks of Daytona. It starts a new season in most Cup Series, and here we are with the Fuel Cup Series here for the Fuel Daytona 250. I'm Nick Kohan here with Andrew Cardinale, and we're here to start this race. And Andrew, it should be a fun one.
Yeah, it definitely should, Finney. And these guys have had a long, and I mean long, off season to get ready for this new season. They're hitting it off just right, as you said, as most Cup Series do. And man, there's a huge field out here tonight, and I guarantee you they all want to make the show. It's going to be tough, though, qualifying up next.
Yeah, and I think it has to be a huge understatement how many cars are here. We have 62 cars, and that was the maximum amount of entries for this race. We're sending a lot of drivers home. Only 40 cars are allowed to start the race, and we have 22 guys that are going to be going home. So the way the format is going to work tonight is that there's going to be two dual races. The field's going to be split in half after qualifying, odds and evens. 20 drivers from each duel will advance to the feature race, and the rest of the drivers are going to be sent packing. So we will have 40 drivers in the feature, two 20-lap duels, and a 60-lap feature race to cap off the night. So really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I mean, there were drivers that just couldn't show up, unfortunately, and you never want to say, oh, a driver can't race, but at the same time, this is a pretty good problem to have the entire field used up. The entire amount of drivers you can have in a race used up is a pretty good problem for the Fuel Cup Series to have.
Indeed it is. Here we're looking at the 52 of Casey Shu, a new entry to the Fuel Cup Series. And in fact, there's quite a few new names here tonight, so if we do get them wrong, please forgive us as we're trying to get used to them. But definitely a lot of familiar faces on the rest of the field. Casey Shu is going to start his lap, or is he going to finish it? Trying to see as they come across the line. First few drivers are setting a time down. Currently, the 92, Christopher Matthews, is leading the charts in first, and many drivers are still putting out a time.
Yeah, the time's going to be pouring in here for the next couple of minutes here. It's going to be something. I'm just watching the list of drivers who've run a lap expand quicker and quicker, and soon we're actually going to start getting the second time come in, so we'll see how fast these guys can actually go, and it's going to be close from top to bottom.
Yeah, and Andrew, I gotta ask you, as a driver who formerly raced in Fuel Cup Series and just does stock car racing in general, how important is it for your qualifying lap, especially at a race like this when you have a potential going home? How important is it to set a qualifying lap here?
Well, to each driver it's different. Obviously, if you want to be in the back, you want to be in the back. So obviously your qualifying time isn't going to be that important to you. But I think even tonight, even if you want to be in the back, you're going to want to get a decent time down just so you're starting somewhere decent for the duel, because this draft package does really limit what you can do. So you're going to have to actually consider where you want to qualify here tonight, and where you're starting from when you get to the duels. Because if you start caboose for either duel, you're starting, let's see, I think, 31st in line. So considering, again, you can't really do anything come duel time, you do not want to be in the back. You just don't, especially, I mean, you have to be passing 11 cars to go from extreme back just to, into position to move on. So it boggles my mind to consider actually how many drivers we have, but I was always one that liked to go up towards the front. You obviously want to start the night off right, and, right now Anthony DeBarro is doing just that, Dakota Ehrman P2.
Indeed, I believe DeBarro is a new entry. Actually, he's up into first now. But yeah, I believe he's a new entry for this season. I don't recall his name from last year.
I think DeBarro was with us towards the end of this season. If not, he's at least been committed since the end of last season. It looks like, aside from Dean Doucette and Timothy Johnson, our entire top 5 is guys who are at least relatively new in that regard. The rest of the top 10 is kind of a mix, but you have some of those old guys towards the top. You still, I mean, we talked about already, you have a ton of new guys in this field, and that's really going to be showing all night long.
In fact, here's the 70 of Scott Eckridge. We have to thank, brought on the sponsor for this series, HostVenom. So got to thank him for that. And everyone also should mention, it's going to be kind of hard to see, but almost every single one of these cars has a HostVenom banner on them. So it's going to look very uniform, very nice, and also a lot of nice paint schemes here. But qualifying is over here, and you can see the top 7 drivers in 1/100th of a second. So very close here tonight. And we're going to begin gridding here for duel number 1. So looking at it, 31 drivers are listed on the grid, and the last 11 drivers are going to be eliminated here tonight. The other lucky 20 drivers are going to continue on.
Yeah, and the battle at the cut line is going to be wild. I've participated in this race last season. I've participated in plenty of races with these cut lines for the duels, and I mean, it's already just stressful enough, but I've never been in a field quite this large, admittedly, trying to get down to just 40 cars. Again, we're talking about cutting 11 drivers out of each of these races. So to imagine that you have to beat over a third of the field that's out there with you, kind of insane. So these guys up in the front, they're going to be, I guarantee you, trying to stay up in the front. I'd be really surprised if any of them actually go to the back, considering how many cars you actually have to beat. And again, this Cup draft package is not very conducive to pack racing.
And yeah, but with those concluding remarks, let's go over your starting lineup for the first duel. And it's not wanting to cooperate, of course. Kyle, your ticker is broken again. All right, so we'll go off of it manually here on the side. Actually, I'll try to go back at it once we start pacing here. Actually, we're just about to start pacing, so let's see. Doesn't want to. Nope, it still doesn't want to work. All right, so Anthony DeBarro, Daniel Roper are going to be starting on the top row. Second row back is going to be Timothy Johnson, Brian Yaksic. Still doesn't want to work. Thomas George is going to be starting 5th alongside Dustin Swingle. 86 is John Boris is going to be starting in 7th. Norman Pelletier 8th. Nick Kohan 9th. John Claude 10th. So those are going to be your starting top 10 for the field. And I'll let this roll across the board for the rest of the positions. But yeah, you were talking earlier about how this draft is really probably one of the most difficult draft packages to kind of get around. And really, that's just due to the fact that it's so hard to draft up to the car ahead of you, and it's so easy to lose the draft if you're at the tail end.
Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing that you're going to notice here right at the start is that top line is going to do everything they can, but I guarantee you that bottom line is going to prevail. Now, later on, you might get some guys that are able to get that top line working towards the end of this little duel, but it's only 20 laps. The tires aren't going to fall off that much. And you hit the nail right on the head there, Finian. These cars just something with the draft package. You know, if you're a single car hanging onto the back of the line, you will fall off. Eventually, you will fall off. So without any help behind you, it's going to be really tough to hang on to a draft. So these guys, again, I'd be really shocked to see any of them choose to go to the back of this field.
Indeed, and as the field's going to round out of turn 4, we're going to get ready for the first duel of 220 laps on the clock. 31 drivers ready to take the green flag, and the pace car is going to make the left turn off to pit road. And we're going to get ready to go racing. Pace car is in, getting ready for the first green flag of the FUEL 2019 Cup Series, and green flag is in the air.
And already you see our outside pole sitter duck in behind the first 2 cars in the inside line. That was Daniel Roper taking a quick exit off the inside line. You see, off the outside line, but you see already just an inside dominant start to this race. Nick Kohan going to be the first guy with anyone to his outside, and that is Norm Pelletier, a couple of veterans of this series. And again, Finian, already you see that bottom line prevailing. That's going to be the story for the rest of these 20 laps.
Yeah, indeed. You can see we talked about how hard it is to pass here. Everyone going to the inside line, playing defensive early on. Remember, these guys are only competing for the top 20 spots right now, and that's currently John Wilco is currently the last car there in the 62 machine. And he's holding on for dear life, because if he misses that, if he falls back one more spot, he's going to be out of this race. But you can see a pack here midfield, and they're led by the 56 of Norman Pelletier.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how long that top line can hang on like that. There's only 5 cars up there. You see now 4 as Pelletier, now 3 as Bresci goes down low. So only 3 cars up top this early. It's only lap 2, and everybody's just ditching that top line. I don't know if they're going to be able
Oh,
to
Pelletier going
back.
to the
Pelletier
inside, got
line.
knocked back. So is the 35, and up the track they come. Still no caution in the air.
And that was Gallagher that made contact with the back of Pelletier on the back straightaway there. Good save. I saw Dylan Lee and Dylan IE maybe and all that, but that's really going to shake things up. That's what these drivers in the back needed.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure everyone's relatively straightened out, and it looks like everyone's sorted out. So let's go and take a look back at what just happened. All right, so I believe that started with the 35. Trying to find him on the relative here. There it is.
So I'll help you out a little bit. It actually starts a couple of cars ahead of Pelletier. It's going to be Cohen, I think it is. And really, it's just a big checkup.
Yeah, big checkup there from the 90, then the 56. Norman Pelletier gets in. The 35 gets a tap from Bresci, and the line gets disjointed. So we're gonna cut back live here to see the results of what just happened. And the pack's broken up just a bit.
Oh yeah, the pack is definitely kind of disintegrated after that. Obviously, everybody having to check up and try not to run into the car ahead. Definitely just strung these guys out across the bottom side of this racetrack, all the way down the back straightaway, pretty much. So that's going to be important. That's a big shift to this entire race. And I mean, you saw Pelletier go all the way to the back of this field, and that's going to be a huge blow if the 56 can't make it in.
Yeah, and here's the 42 of John Claude. He's actually a little bit too far back from the leading pack, the top 11 drivers. So there's the leading pack ahead of him, and then if we look on behind, there's the trailing pack. There's 2 cars and then a bigger pack here. So the pack that's up towards the front of the field, they're loving this right now because they're all in the clear. They're in the top 11 spots. They're going to go onto the show. They really have nothing else to do other than just kind of sit and ride because they know they're onto the feature. However, there's a bigger story back here because these guys are still fighting out for position.
Yeah, watching down further in the field is going to be the important thing for these duels. You see David Leclerc and Evan Adams trying to sort things out just behind the cut line. Casey Campbell ahead of them. And Don Runkle, I noticed he was just below that cut line before that big issue down the back straightaway. He's still 21st. Watch that 00 to shake things up. He's currently behind Woody Mahan and Dylan IE, so we'll see what he can do later on. But man, I mean, that actually helps John Wilco out, though. You mentioned him being 20th position. Now he's at least 18th. So the small victories are what matters here.
Yeah, indeed. So Don Runkle's right now behind the 8-car Woody Mahan, who's currently holding. You can see both those cars in frame right now. That's the fight for the transfer spot right now. And actually, if we look on behind Don Runkle, he's got 2 cars trailing, but they're a little bit further back from him. So he's kind of in the clear as far as having no one else to compete with, but that could very well change.
And those cars behind Don Runkle may become his best friends later on, because I would not be surprised if that 00 eventually falls off that line ahead, just because, again, of this package. So Casey Campbell, David Leclerc, Evan Adams going to be increasingly important to that 00 car as the laps wind down. Because, if he falls back there and they can get a run up, he might be able to side draft and get around at least the 8 car. It's going to be tough, but he might be able to do something that way. But this is going to be an interesting race down here at the cut line, considering how strung out they are.
Yeah, no, we're riding on board now with Evan Adams. If you notice, David Leclerc in front of him has a lot of rear-end damage. And again, it's really mostly the front of the car that matters, especially in the draft. But that's definitely not going to help Evan, especially I saw him trying to pass Leclerc earlier. I'm pretty sure he wants to get around him rather than work with him because he's working with a damaged car.
Oh, definitely. I've been watching Evan kind of swerve behind him, try and get out to the clean air. But that's going to hurt that 59 if he has no one with him, and he doesn't. So considering he has no one to go help him up there, unless Campbell was to commit to the top side, it would be tough for him to pass that 50. But you're right. That damage behind or on the back end of the 50 car is going to at least hurt him in that he's going to find a hard time getting pushed in this duel. Thankfully, obviously the car is going to be fixed for the 5. Well, I shouldn't say 500, but the 60 lap race later on. So that'll help him out as these guys actually catch up to Don Runkle and that cut line battle.
Yeah, and in front of them, Corey Budina working with the 25 of Brandon Minto trying to go to the outside of the 41 Justin Claude. So they've John Claude, sorry. So they've caught him and now trying to make the pass for position. This is going to stack up this middle pack.
Yeah, but John Caudle did the right thing. He stayed on the bottom side, and that's actually the most predictable thing to do. I know a lot of people want slower cars to always go high, but that's just not the reality. You know, at 41, if he stays low, that line has to go around him, and eventually he's going to get caught into that draft, and he's going to be able to actually keep going forward. And unfortunately, it's going to catch. I believe that's Minto you mentioned. Yeah, Brandon Minto on the outside. It's going to catch him off, and he's going to lose a ton of positions as he's get freight trained, but. You know, you look further back and you see David Leclerc actually on the outside.
Oh,
another car actually in the wall. That was the 39 of Calvin Filarski up in the fence. So these guys mixing it up.
Yeah,
in the back.
a lot of movement here. Oh, and a wreck. The 50 of David Leclerc spinning to the infield. A 39 of Calvin Filarski involved. He's spinning onto the track, and no caution. Currently out.
Yeah, no caution as of yet. It may be because of where it is in relation to the field. It may actually also be that it is technically a heat race. I'm not totally sure, but that really kills the back of the field.
Indeed, that does. So a lot of big names involved, and we'll take a look at that since nothing's currently going on further up the field. But man, what a wreck that was. So it started with Calvin Filarski. We'll take a look on board. There you see that's I believe the 12 or the 15. Sorry, of Cody Tabor was sliding about, and then utter mayhem ensued. We'll try to get a better look there. Car that I was riding on board with lagged out. So looking at Michael Hurley right now in the middle of all this in the 32. He goes middle 3, wide with the 75. He gets disjointed, gets into David Leclerc, and there you see Filarski and company getting involved. The 92 of Christopher Matthews also involved. So tough break for these guys.
Yeah, it really was just that Leclerc was looking to go back low and just cut off the nose of the 75 car, unfortunately. And now, you know, it's tough to get into those holes, but it's really important. So you can't fault Leclerc for doing what he had to do and try and get to the bottom. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out.
All right, halfway through this heat race, 9 laps to go. And pretty quiet so far up in the front of the pack. Nothing much has really happened. Again, these guys pretty much doing the job they need to do. Up here, all single filed out. Looking back at position number 20, the big number again, drivers, only the top 20 drivers from this race will move on to the feature and race for the race in the Daytona 250. So the rest of these guys are going to go home, and Woody Mann still holding that spot, holding it from the rest of everyone else. There you see Casey Campbell behind, Don Runkle also behind fighting position, as well as Cody Tabor and Evan Adams. Those are the only 4 really in contention at the moment.
Yeah, and if you look further back, you see some big names like Norm Pelletier, who we covered already, Calvin Filarski, David Leclerc, who have been here since, you know, the start of it all last year. Even Evan Adams. And talk about some guys who are dedicated to this series that, unfortunately, I don't think are going to move on to the big race tonight. And that's kind of staggering to me. As far as Don Runkle's situation, he actually just lost that spot to Casey Campbell. That's really going to hurt. That
oh, and the 35 spinning in front of these guys. And another big wreck involving a lot of cars, and caution is finally out and in the air. And a big break, a lot of big names involved. Don Runkle Jr., actually his car looks relatively unscathed compared to the rest of these guys. Evan Adams is a big name. His car is pretty much toast. He's smoking on the infield. Casey Campbell also involved as the caution flag flies. So let's take a look at that replay. This started with the 35 of David Lee. So we'll take a look on board here. I'm wondering if he just got a little bit of a shove in the car behind him. And yeah, it looks like he got a shove from the 8 car. Round went Cody Tabor into the infield. And he went for a relatively okay spin, but really the big one's getting the brunt of that was Evan Adams in the 59. So we'll take another look at that. Right on board with Evan Adams. There you see the 8 get into the 35. Evan goes low. And he looks like he made it through, but up comes Casey Campbell into the 8 car, and he gets hooked into the wall hard.
Yeah, just a bumper hook there from the 8 to the 35, and really he just got to the 35, and with as few times as you get a run, you have to take that run and push somebody if you can, but just unfortunately shot the 35 sideways, and the 8 car caught the right rear of the 35 and hooked him around.
Yeah, Cody Tabor currently on pit road fixing damage, as well as some other drivers, Norman Pelletier, trying to get that car in some repairable condition. And these guys still have a chance for good. This race is definitely going to go back green. Question is for how long, and if there is a wreck, really, and that's what a lot of these guys involved in that wreck are hoping for. But at the front of the field, haven't really talked a lot about them all night long. Anthony DeBarro is leading over Timothy Johnson, then Daniel Roper, driver from Hardline, coming over here. He's having a nice run in third. Brian Yaksik fourth. Thomas George fifth. Dustin Schwingle in sixth. John Bohr 7th. Nick Kohan 8th. 9th will have Michael Krobach. 10th, Travis McQuiston. So that's your field, the top 10 at the moment, and we should get the one to go in a lap or two. But what do you expect, Andrew, for this last restart? I mean, we got a lot of guys still with a decent shot at it. It's still up for contention of who's going to get that last transfer spot. Do you think it's going to be really as chaotic as we saw guys fighting for it earlier, or do you think it's going to be calm with too many cars out?
It's going to be a mix of chaos, but, well, actually, I think it's going to be two different kinds of chaos. I think it's going to be guys obviously going for positions behind maybe, 7th or 8th, because, if you get freight trained, even if you're 10th, suddenly you can be 21st. So it's going to be chaos between guys just generally fighting for position and trying to keep that top line going, and guys just trying to get down to the bottom side as quickly as they can. I think there's going to be a few chopped noses here. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, to see someone try and clear themselves and get to the bottom side and actually spin themselves. It's going to be interesting watching these guys try and filter down to the top, or bottom rather, or just try and generally fight 2x2, and that's going to be tough. Again, these cup cars on iRacing generally don't want to draft 2x2, but you got to do what you got to do, and I think these guys are really going to end up fighting pretty hard here these last few laps.
Yeah, and here we see the 92 of Christopher Matthews, who, if we remember earlier, was involved in the wreck coming out of the trial, but went for a bit of a spin. I believe he collected it, but not a scratch on his car. And if you look up just ahead, Michael Hurley in that 32 car, as well as the 35 Dylan Lee, who we just saw involved in that last wreck. Those guys have quite a bit of damages to the nose of their car, so they're going to be definitely down on speed. And you got guys like Christopher Matthews, the 75 of Josh Gillett, and even Norman Pelletier too. If we can get a camera on his car, relatively repaired. That car was in a lot worse state before, so he still has a shot at it here. He's currently in 24th, so definitely guys still have a shot at taking the fight to 20th place, who's currently held by the 35 Dylan Lee.
Yeah, this will be interesting. You mentioned adding in those wrecked cars to this battle here at the cut line, and looking even further, if anyone tries to go out to the outside and maybe start a move on their own, you see some damaged noses that are going to hurt them just from that checkup earlier on with Pelletier and Lee. So this is going to be a very interesting situation, like we've been saying, and they're only going to get a few laps. They're coming to lap 17. So they'll be taking 3 to go. We'll get the restart here in just a moment. So as we double them up one more time, man, this will be interesting. You see some guys on the outside that are going to be plenty aggressive. I see Thomas Bresci, Corey Boudinot, Travis McQuistion, Nick Kohan up there, guys that are familiar faces, at least to myself, that are going to be making some big moves here. Yeah. If you go further forward, you even have the 55 of Yazik, who might be looking to make a move here. Try and either pass a couple of cars and make that top work, or maybe just sink down to the bottom. So this is going to be a pretty hectic restart.
Yeah, indeed it is, and we've been talking for mostly about the battle for 20th, because up front it was single file, but now we have 3 laps to go, and this race does set the gridding order for the odd positions in the main event. So these guys still do have something to fight for here. Now their backup double foul. I think we might see the double foul prevail here, as the guys in the outside lane are going to try their best to move up to the front.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if most of this outside lane. I wouldn't be surprised actually if it's kind of a half split. If some of these guys try and just sink down and half of them try and actually go for spots, because the problem with trying to work this top side is if it doesn't work, suddenly you're going to be freight trained to go into the back, and where do you shake out then? So it'll be interesting here.
Indeed, it will. Sorry, apologize to the audience there. I have a little bit of a cough, but the pace car is going to be coming off here for the final time. This will be the final restart, whether it ends under green or not. Pace car is going to be in the Anthony DeBarro, and the 27 is going to lead them from the outside for these final 3 laps. Green flag is back in the air. And DeBarro does a great job getting to the inside, holding Timothy Johnson at bay in the 28. And there you see the 47, no Swingle, swing down to the bottom. And there you see the 50.
Big wreck behind. Big wreck
behind.
And
caution is out in the air.
And this one involved Dylan Lee again.
And that's going to be all she wrote for this heat race. And we'll take a look back at what happened. And here are these guys coming to take the green. And remember, they have a lot to fight for here, especially with these damaged cars. Start in the feature race is going to be on the line. There you see the 92 of Christopher Matthews swing to the outside. The 35, who puts him in the wall. And that was a little bit too aggressive, in my opinion, there. And that's going to knock both those drivers out.
Yeah, we mentioned, maybe cutting noses, and cutting noses, I think, is one thing, because that's a lot closer of whether or not you're clear or not, but that was pretty cut and dry. The 35 just wasn't clear and kept going up the racetrack. I don't know. I can't explain that one. I can't begin to explain that one, but it's going to be really unfortunate for the 92 there, who's going to really just get squeezed out of this one, quite literally and figuratively.
Yeah, I mean, there's always fighting for every single position, but I think that's taking it right there to that literal extreme. We'll try to take one more look at it. Looking on board the 75's view, and there you see the 35 up ahead, swings up into the 92, into the wall they go, and everyone tries to avoid it. And it's really unfortunate for a lot of these drivers who are back in the pack, as now they pretty much got nothing to fight for left as the race is over. And so,
looking at the standings, it's looking like Pelletier might have got by that wreck, but is still going to get cut. Obviously waiting for timing and scoring to update, but this will be interesting to follow as they come back across the line here, Finian.
Yeah, once they get back across the line, it should be more or less the official scoring. Actually, the 35 and the 92 are listed inside the top 20. And as they come across the line, they still are, so I'll pop the ticker back on. So you can see the drivers who have made it into the feature. And there you can see the top 15 there. And actually, having some difficulties here. There we go. And actually, never mind. I'm going to take the ticker off because each of you is messing up a little bit on the scoring. But it should be Anthony DeBarro who's going to come across the line in first, Timothy Johnson second, Daniel Roper third, Thomas George fourth, Brian Yaksik fifth, Dustin Swingle in sixth, Nick Kohan seventh, John Borst eighth, Travis McQuistion ninth, and Michael Krobach's going to finish in 10th. As far as the transfer spot is concerned, it should be the 92 of Christopher Matthews who will take that last spot and will be starting 39th in the feature race. Norman Pelletier, Don Runkle Jr., big names for the series. Mike Hurley, Joshua Gillick, Cody Tabor, another big name, and Casey Campbell are all going to be just a little bit short, and they're going to be going home empty-handed.
Yeah, I'm really kind of heartbroken for Evan Adams there, who was running a clean race for himself and unfortunately just got caught up in that wreck a little while ago. Also, I mean, you got to think about Norman Pelletier, Don Runkle, and those guys. Calvin Filarski, too, who ran a whole bunch last year and unfortunately won't make the big show of the season, the first show of the season. But you still see a bunch of big names who are pretty important to the series moving on.
All right, I was hoping I would get at least a little bit of time to show the finishing results, but on to duel number 2 we go with no time to waste at all. And getting a whole new field of drivers getting ready to line up. We got 31 listed for the start here. And hopefully all 31 get to the grid. At least we'll have 30 or 29, but still that is a huge amount of huge field. I mean, some leagues even struggle to get this kind of field on a regular basis, let alone in 2 different races. So solid job by the FUEL Cup Series as well as the HostVenom Cup Series for getting this show put on. It's fantastic so far. The first race was action-packed, and looking forward to a second one.
Yeah, don't worry. I keep forgetting exactly what the sponsor is, too. I wanted to say RigShare earlier, but you got to thank HostVenom for coming on board. I keep struggling to come up with that name, but eventually we'll get it down, right?
Yeah, at some point it will. All right, so we'll wait for the pace car to leave pit road this time. Hopefully the graphic will work. All right, and no, it will not. Okay, so we're gonna not use that, and I'll turn on the tickers so you can see your starting lineup. Dakota Ehrman's going to lead the field to green from first. Dean Doucette on his outside, then Rich Jett and Scott Eckridge in the second row. Greg Evans, then Jeff Ward, 5th and 6th. 7th and 8th we'll have Drew Carroll and Rhett McBride. 9th and 10th we'll have Jonathan Cadell and Brian Green, and I'll let you folks at home read the rest of the field, but how are you feeling about this race, Andrew? Do you think these guys, seeing what happened in race 1, do you think they're going to change their approach as to going forward in this race, either being a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more conservative?
Really, I think the only thing that'll change is these guys going to the bottom a little bit sooner because they see just how important it is now to fall in line really early and really quickly and really efficiently. And it's going to be tough to do so, but I guarantee you these guys, again, are just going to sink that bottom side, and the few that can't, unfortunately, are going to go straight to the back of the field, and that's where things will pick up again. So I think it'll be a pretty cut and dry, almost replication of that first duel, at least to that point. But after that, they might get a little more aggressive.
Indeed, yeah. So we'll see how this race goes on. If it's going to be a lot like the first or something else on its own entirely. Again, Dakota Ehrman's going to lead this field of 31, actually 30 drivers currently listed, ready to take the green flag. Pace car is going to peel off onto pit road. And for the start of duel number 220, more laps for these guys to take. Green flag is in the air. And we see Scott Eckridge all over the back bumper of Dean Doucette on that outside lane. He wants to go to the front immediately. He's not wasting any time.
Yeah, already a pretty big start for Ehrman, but that was quickly erased. It wasn't quite the advantage we saw in Duel 1. So Dean Doucette, Scott Eckridge trying to make that top work. Then you see that bottom prevail. Just drive away and just drive by them. They've got Rich Jett and Greg Evans out on the bottom side. That's an interesting number for Evans. I think it should be 2, but we'll see. And there you go, Eckridge down to the bottom side, leaving Doucette. That's going to be an important move there. He actually, I think, tried to get Doucette in, but couldn't check up enough. So you're going to see that 29 fall back to, I think that might be the 87 up top. Could be wrong.
89 car.
89, sorry.
Yeah, it's Jeff Ward in the 89.
Yeah, a bunch of new names, a bunch of new car numbers. I actually know Jeff Ward's name, just not that car number for him. But, man, the top 3 already kind of driving away. We'll see how that changes throughout the race. 2 by 2 behind him for 4th place.
Indeed, yeah, they're still fighting on that outside lane, a lot more determined this time through. They're still keeping up there, and there you see the 46 actually of Greg Evans. He looked like he wanted to go to the outside line, maybe try to go to the front, maybe be a little bit aggressive here in this opening stint.
Yeah, now you're seeing that top fall away, unfortunately. I really wish these guys could actually race, but you know, we see the real guys go straight up to the top side and get single file, so I guess that's somewhat, I guess, comparable to what happens here, but even so, you should be able to get 2 lines at some point if you want to. The guys in real life just generally don't want to. Plus, they can actually field on their subjects. These guys are all fixed. It's one of those things, though, that these guys have to deal with. You know, it is part of the race, unfortunately. So it's almost like having an interesting chicane at a roval or something, if you get what I'm saying here, but either way, you see that top line just disintegrate. Rhett McBride actually at the tail end of that behind Ward and Doucette. You see some guys now inching further ahead. You see Hensley, Cadell on the bottom side trying to get past those cars on the outside. So it just quickly disintegrated. But still, I mean, I will say I'm impressed by those guys on the top that actually kept that line going a little bit longer than the previous game.
Yeah, I can say from my own experience, you usually need at least about 4 cars to get going. 3, you're kind of teetering on losing a lot of time. But here you see the 29, the 89, and the 5 there maintaining a run there. Although they're starting to break up just a little bit here and get disconnected. But that inside line is still the way to go. Looking on towards the back of the field, we have Rick Thompson in the 79. That's a big name. Was the winner of the last Daytona race, the last season opener last season, and is hoping to take another one here tonight.
Oh, a big wreck!
Oh, trying to see who that was. Big wreck to the inside, and no caution has flown as this is out of these drivers' way, and that's Gabriel Perry involved, big name involved, as well as Fred Thompson. And no caution's going to be in the air.
Yeah, they aren't going to get one for that. They were down to the inside. It looks like it starts with the 4. Yeah, it definitely starts with the 4, though. That's Brian Delp.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but we'll continue on looking at the front of the field. That outside line is still not going away. Actually, Rhett McBride in the 5 has ditched them and actually passed them on the inside line. They're actually starting to lose some momentum. The 65 of Jonathan Cadell jumped up there, as well as the 42 of William Long, but they're losing a lot of time up there.
And immediately, Cadell goes back to the bottom side, just in front of Mitch Welker. That actually could open up a hole for the 42. Possibly. It's going to be tough for him to squeeze down there, but it might open that hole up. Not quite. It's going to fill now.
Yeah, and Mitchell Welker.
That top side, they have a few guys who are trying to go places. I just don't know if they can.
Yeah, and again, this is all around the bubble here. We're looking at 20th. Justin Rodden is currently holding that spot here. He's on the bubble position and is currently fighting for it. And if we look on behind him, there you see the last few drivers fighting for a spot. And there you see the 76, last year's winner, currently on the outside looking in.
Yeah, it proves without provisionals, be it for the pole or previous wins or championships, it really opens anything up to happen. So Rick Thompson won last year's race here and is now trying to fight to even get close to making the show. I shouldn't say get close to. He's technically close, but you know, gaps are tough to make up in these cars, like we've been covering all night long. So it's gonna be tough in that regard, in these little ways in that regard. But currently, I think across the line was in 20th position. We'll see where he shakes out after this lap. And actually, that top line is starting to go. Rodden and Thompson are actually making up some ground. I just don't know how long that 6-car group will hang on. Now you see Bliss going up to the top side, and that's the 18 car, kind of in the back end of this field.
Yeah,
so now he gets a bit of a run on the 6th. The 88 fills that hole at the bottom, though.
Yeah, that's the 88 of Tyler Dulger, another notable name. Fuel Regular is currently in the back. A lot of big names in this back part. Kevin Bartle, Tim Silman, Tyler Dulger, Brian Bliss, Casey Shue. All of them are on the bubble right now fighting for a position. And actually, notably too, Will Roberts has also lost the draft. And he's the guy who puts this whole show on. So he's currently in 26 and is hoping for a caution. He's currently drafting with the 16 of Jared Dixon. So they're both kind of hoping for something to happen here. I think they lost a draft with the 13 and the 66 getting involved with each other. Yeah,
they barely got through that incident. So they're lucky just to be continuing on there, and they're just, oh man, words. They're actually just ahead of Brad Collins, who unfortunately I think is losing their draft as well. But it's a good thing they're still moving on, but well, it's still racing, I should say, but it's going to be tough for them to actually get up there without a caution. So
yeah, and how about
impossible?
And how about the 29 of Dean Doucette? You talk about persistent. I don't think this guy has been in the inside line this entire race so far. He's been in the outside line. He's holding it right now, and he's actually got, if we can look at the wide shot here, he's got a decent amount of guys working with him.
Well, yeah, he had fallen down back there to Tyler Hensley and further back on the inside line. So, I mean, he was down around 10th place or worse, and now he's battling back up into the top 5 on the outside. He's got a good pusher, looks like, in William Long working that top side with him. Then it's Philip Radicic, on the outside in the 43. Then it's Adam Jersky, and you see that top line gaining more drivers, gaining more support. So, I'll admit, I'm really surprised by these guys actually working that top line as well as they are. It's still obviously tough, a lot tougher than in the trucks or Xfinity cars here. But and a lap car gonna really
that's Casey Shue
down the racetrack.
Oh, that's not Casey Shue. Sorry, that is the 4 of Brian Delp, and he had a lot of cars just go on by him. And luckily he did not get involved in anything because that could have been ugly. But here we see Mitchell Welker, he was actually looking like he was pretty good, riding in around 15th, and now he's back in 19th. So dangerously close to the bubble, and you can see some guys moving up. Rick Thompson moved himself up into 16th. Remember, he was in 24th. So these guys in the back here, especially with these two lines, it gives them a lot of options to work with. And these guys trying to move themselves forward, trying to keep themselves safe.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch was in a good spot when that top line wasn't going anywhere, and when Dean was back there in about 10th or 11th, and they had no strength. And then suddenly they just got a big burst of power and it went up to the top side and made that thing work. So, I mean, again, kudos to those guys. I'm really surprised and really impressed by what they're doing up there. Normally, you can't get a cohesive enough top line to make it work. Clearly, it can be done. It's just very tough. But, you know, that's really going to change things because now the guys in the back may have missed their ticket to the front. Obviously, that top line is going. Oh, Dulger to the outside. Shoot, makes contact with his left rear.
Oh, and some cars straggling at the back.
He saved it? No, he's going to lock it down. Casey Shoe around in the back now.
Yeah, no, he's dangerously close to the track. He's going to roll back on the track, and I believe there's a few cars coming on. And no, he's going to take it to the inside, and we'll take this moment to try to take a replay of what just happened.
He fought that thing to the end.
All right, so here we're looking at the 52. Look to the inside of Dulger, trying to shove his car in there. Was fighting the car all of turn 4. And you can see he was spinning that thing wildly out of control, trying to save it, and he's going to spin it. Was hoping for a caution to come out, did not get that at all. So unfortunately for the 52, he's going to be put out quite a bit of it. He's currently in 27th out of the draft, so he's going to have to hope for a caution here.
Yeah, he never stopped driving that car, though. That was pretty impressive there from Casey Schutte.
And
at least keep trying to keep it going.
Yeah, notably, too, Brian Bliss has also lost the draft, as well as Tyler Dulger, who was the car involved in that incident. So they both lost the draft and now holding on for dear life. So that means that there's only 21 cars on this lead lap. And actually, as I lead pack, and as I say that, I see cars kind of in the back there. That's the 10 of Chris Long. He's actually in danger of losing the draft, and we can go on board with him. It doesn't seem, again, under the old rules package, the more familiar draft package that we had in the Gen 5 era, where guys could just suck up from quite a while back. But I mean, looking at his distance, I think he's in with no cars behind him to help, and I think that's a big thing with this package. You need someone behind you to keep you safe, otherwise you're in danger of losing the draft. And I think the 10 of Chris Long, he's looking at his chances at the start this race, the feature, going out the window.
Well, a couple of things are going to help him here. Kevin Bartelt is losing that outside line momentum, so he's going to fall in behind Mitchell Welker here in a second. That's going to open up some air for the 10, and it looks like, for some reason, these cars have actually been sucking up pretty well tonight. It's a bit different from what I've been seeing, but at the same time, you got to consider the checkups on that bottom side and how much times Mitchell Welker might have to check up, and now he's the 51 slotting in finally, so that 10 now suddenly a lot closer to the back end of the field. He might be able to catch back up. I mean, it's just going to help him out.
Yeah, and it looks like he's just about getting the tail end of the draft here, so his slopes look to be saved, although again, I imagine he was probably very concerned. He was probably concerned about him even catching back up, so hopefully he can get himself back into the race. But the lead pack pretty much 21 cars strong, so these guys are all good within the show. And there you see Dean Doucette on the outside yet again, refusing to go to the inside this race, and he's got the 42 William Long pushing him along.
Yeah, that top side has been, again, massively impressive to me, making it work. I didn't expect this big push from the outside to happen, but now you're seeing Adam Jersky falling off, Justin Rodden, so that's suddenly going to weaken that top side. Coming to 5 laps to go. Tyler Hensley thinking about it, dips back in, but I really wish they could get a better outside line going. They had it going for a while, and Dean Doucette got up to about 5th place, and he's still actually there, but it's just, he's going to start falling off.
And I think part of the reason is, too, now I think these drivers have realized, the field has thinned out quite a bit with a few minor incidents. And I guess these guys figure, what's the point in racing it out here? There's a chance of getting in a wreck, or a chance of losing a lot of positions on that outside line. So I think, and you can tell, too, visually looking at it, how much smaller that outside lane is. And I think drivers have decided to just blend into the inside and ride out these last few laps.
Yeah, definitely. And you look back to the cut line now. You're speaking of the field kind of thinning out. You're seeing a couple of those stragglers off the top falling back. Mitch Welker just barely in the field. Kevin Bartelt trying to better his position, but currently everybody in this main draft is in, but that 51 is losing time quickly. Just because he's on the tail end, he's starting to lose time, and eventually he's going to lose that draft, I think, unless he can get a big run out of one of these corners. Looks like that might have been the corner he needed, getting a run back out to the 7 car, but he needs to just hold in line behind the 7. He needs to just hold in line. But, I mean, Rodden and Jersey are falling back, so that's going to help him out a little bit as well, possibly get him a couple of positions. But currently, the cut line battle has just completely fizzled, considering everyone from the 51 forward is in.
Yeah, and actually you can see him, he started losing quite a bit of time on the straightaway and in the tri-oval too. And you can tell these guys, if you look at the bottom, he's going 200 miles an hour. These cars top out at about 203, 204 in the draft, maybe 205 if you're lucky. But yeah, Bartel just a little bit off the pace, and you can see he's starting to lose a lot more time. If he's not careful, now he's in the danger zone here of losing it. He's currently in 20th, and if we look out the back of his car, you can see Chris Long in the distance, how much he's dropped off the pace from the pack after losing the draft. So Bartel doesn't want to end up in his position, although at this point he's in the show, but barely. He's in the last place spot in 20th. Dean Doucette currently listed in 3rd with a big push to the front. I'm still impressed. The 29, the 42, and the 43 doing a fantastic job. That's Dean Doucette, William Long, and Philip Radosic. I believe I'm saying that right. Working on that outside line. Those guys have been up there for a majority of this race, keeping that line going, keeping it strong. And they've done a fantastic job.
Yeah, Philip Radosic on the outside. I haven't seen him in a while, but I'm glad he is here. But yeah, I mean, they've been doing a great job, even with just 3 cars up there. William Long, I think you just mentioned it, has done a great job of keeping that 29 where he needs to be to get a little bit of side draft going on and actually keep that top line. Again, massively impressed with the way that top line has survived throughout the race. Now you see Rick Thompson has fallen back a little bit. He's actually looking like he might lose a position to Mitchell Welker. So Mitch, the IndyCar guy, coming in here, trying to be a rookie in the Cup Series, gaining a spot or 2 late. But 1 lap to go, white flag and duel number 2. Finian and these guys, well, the battle is fizzling out.
Yeah, indeed it is. We're looking back up to the front. Does anyone dare challenge Dakota Ehrman? This is the start. This is the fight to start on the outside row, or in the first row, the outside place in the first row. So Dakota Ehrman's going to lead them on. Does Rich Jed in the 77, that black car behind, does he have anything for Ehrman? That outside lane's kind of fizzling out here. Here they go through 3 and 4. I don't think anyone's really going to try anything at this point. Out of 4 they come, and to the line. Does anyone try anything? Last second moves. And nope, doesn't look like anything's going to happen. Dakota Ehrman's going to win duel number 2. And along with the rest of the field, cycling on through. And notable drivers who are going to be going home here is going to be Chris Long, Brian Bliss, Tyler Duggar, Will Roberts, Jared Dixon, Casey Shue, Brad Collins, Fred Thompson, Brian Delp, Gabriel Perry, and Trenton Volk, who didn't start. But man, what a race! I think that race is definitely a lot more interesting than the first duel we saw.
Well, it was interesting for different reasons, I think. Obviously, the first duel actually had a couple of yellows there and had had a yellow. Yeah, no, a couple of yellows. My mind is slipping. But that race definitely had better racing, I think, overall. So, all in all, though, a good show so far, and things are looking up for this 60-lap feature.
And there you see the results on the screen. I have to take them off as now we go from night to day, and the final grid has been set. The 40 drivers who have qualified are in the show and ready to take the green flag. We got a 3-minute warm-up here, and we're going to take this opportunity to take a little bit of a break here, catch our breaths, get some water, and get ready for a 60-lap feature race. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. right, and we're back here at Daytona as the warm-up is now going to complete. Again, set the final gridding order for the feature race. All 40 drivers have been chosen, and 22 have gone back home. And a lot of big names were taken. Were not able to qualify, including Will Roberts, who puts on this race. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to qualify. And man, what a heat race that was! And as we go through the pace laps, like I have Calvin Filarski here, who is taking on some admin duties. And Calvin, what are your thoughts on the opening duels?
It's second year of the new league. Got a lot of new faces and some familiar ones that we've raced with in other leagues previously. But you get the first time you get everybody on a track together, you don't know what people are like, what people are used to, and calamity happens. So, I mean, unfortunately, for myself and my team, we didn't get a whole lot of our guys into the main field, but we're going to go dust ourselves off and get back out there next week.
All right, thank you, Calvin, and I'll let you go back to what you're doing for the feature race, and hopefully we can talk to you later, potentially.
Sounds great. Thanks, SYM TV, for another great season.
No problem. Looking forward to it. All right, and these guys are getting gridded here. We got the 40 cars, and they're set on the grid, and we're going to start pacing here, and hopefully, fingers crossed, this works this time. No, it does not. Awesome. All right. Don't know why it is not wanting to work on me. Okay, let's do this the old-fashioned way here. I'll throw up the ticker here. So Anthony DeBarro, after running duel number 1, he's going to be starting on pole here. Dakota Ehrman winning duel number 2. He will start on the outside. Timothy Johnson, Rich Jett will round out row number 2. Daniel Roper, Greg Evans, row 3. Thomas George, Dean Doucette, row 4. Brian Yaksic, row 5. Alongside Jeff Ward, and I'll try to bring this back up here. I'll let this cycle through so you can see the names flash on the screen, what doesn't appear on the ticker as well. And try to get the shot here. 40 cars here, everyone's gridded and ready to take the green here. And Andrew, it's 60 laps here. We got 40 extra laps. That's 100 more miles. What do you think we're going to see? Do you think it's going to be calm and collected? Do you think these guys are going to try to pace themselves out? Or do you think we're going to see action all 60 laps?
Well, I still think we're going to see that mass exodus down to the bottom side here, Calvin, on the start. Or Finian, wow, that was interesting. Apparently you're Calvin now. But anyway, no, we're going to see that mass exodus, I think, down to the bottom side. But you're going to see a lot of guys be more lax, because obviously there's a lot more time to work with here. So it's not going to be quite as urgent to get down to the bottom, especially because even if you drop back to 40th, you're still in the race, and you can still make up time. You can still make up spots. So it's a little less urgent here. We'll see how these guys fare, and hopefully it's clean and green.
All right, we're going to see the pace car make the left turn onto pit road and get ready for another season of fuel. This is the main event. Green flag is in the air for the Daytona 250. Clean start by everyone as they head off through the trioval. The 28 of Timothy Johnson over the back bumper of the 27 of DeBarro as they head off into 1.
And already you're seeing that mass exodus, but DeBarro gets that big green run so far. Johnston staying loyal to that back end of the 27, and I'm sure he will. Ehrman slots into 3rd, then it's Roper. And looks like Rich Jett's going to lose even 5th place to the 9 of Thomas George. So that top 5 quickly sorted out. Then it's going to be double wide from then on back. I think that top line really, really unorganized.
Yeah, they're trying to get themselves sorted out. As you see, the entire field pass through on the front straightaway. A few guys going below the yellow line. A lot of movement midfield.
Yeah, Eckers was trying to get low, and he still had Cohen just underneath his left front, and he had to wait just a little bit longer and actually go back 3 wide with those guys. I think Radicic was on his outside still. Now you're going to see the 87. That's going to be Carroll slotting in behind. Now he moves back up, so that top line gaining some strength, still quite unorganized. We'll see what Jeff Ward can do as the conductor of that train. He's got William Long behind him, and William Long, as we saw in duel number 2, was a strong pusher for that top side. So you have a couple of the main components there from that top line in duel number 2 still on the outside. It's going to be William Long and Philip Radicic. So watch the 42 and 43 here possibly be the main, I guess, anchors of that top line as we get going. Rich Jet kind of looking high, but still DeBarro out front, looking like Corey LaJoy.
Yeah, notably the guy we're missing on the top line is the 29 and Dean Doucette, who decided to go to the bottom this race. Interested in seeing him ditch the friends he kind of made in that first opening lap. But again, 60-lap race as opposed to 20. These guys got a long way to go, and if this goes green, and we did see it almost go green entirely last year, had one caution in the race, but this race, again, looking to go fairly green as everyone's spread out, and again, pacing themselves. It's a long race ahead.
And funny you mentioned that, Finian, because once we get into the area where these green flag pit stops open up, if we make it there green, that is going to be hectic. Last year we had a bunch of guys come out of turn 2 and clear themselves up the racetrack and really cause a frenzy down the back straightaway. So watch for something like that later on in this race. It's going to be wild as we have a new leader on the outside. Brian Yazik went to the outside thinking he could do something up there, and that's going to slow down the entire top line for a little while. But it could actually help them out. It kind of disorganizes the bottom again. Rich Jet has a big gap ahead of him. So Brian Yazik now the conductor of that train. It's going to be Jeff Ward P2 on that line. Up front, still the same on the bottom side though.
Yeah, again, they still are losing quite a bit of time. In fact, the entire first 7 cars on the inside line are by themselves, and then it's double file there on back. But I mean, that outside line is still very prominent. It's just a matter of themselves getting hooked up and getting ready to go. And you can see the 55 of Yaksig being very aggressive. He's pinching down to the inside, trying to side draft these guys so he can build up a run on that outside lane. He's determined to keep that lane going.
Oh, this isn't aggressive yet. This is not aggressive side drafting just yet. He's definitely getting down there and I think trying to help themselves out, but this definitely is not aggressive. When we get to lap 50 or so, that's when you'll see these guys really get down there on the doors of the cars to the inside, and even the guys on the inside maybe getting up to the guys on the top, you know, trying to side draft them and slow the top side down, which won't be hard. Again, I will say I'm massively impressed by the guys who are making the top work. Now you see Cohen and others going back to the bottom and ditching that top lane effort. So you're seeing it quickly dissolve, even though it got some early strength. So now lap 6 of 16, you're starting to see these guys kind of just settle in for the long haul.
Yeah, you see Cohen and Krobach ditching the lane, as well as Adam Jersky in the 69. All of them were riding on that top lane and now decided, and you see a mass exodus. I actually really like that term. I'm going to probably use that from here on out. To the bottom lane, you can see it pretty much broken up. It was a decent running lane. Then the middle of it went to the bottom as the gaps opened up, and now you can see there's only pretty much 5 guys in the leading outside lane, and then a few guys on back. And actually, let's try to focus here on the back part of the field. We have Thomas Bressie, Gale Brooks, John Rodden here fighting midfield. This is around 27th place. And a lot of guys here. Also notably the 35 of Dylan Lee. And also, if I can find him, where is the 92 of Christopher Matthews, who's at the tail end of the field in 40th. Remember, they had a bit of an incident in the last race. Actually, the 92 already has some major damage to his nose. Or is that just me?
Oh, well, I was actually working with a couple of graphic settings to get the whole field to come up. So now I'm not seeing the whole field. We'll see what comes back up on my end, but I'll try and check that.
So here's the view of Matthews with that open nose. I'm hoping that it's just a issue on the receiving end here, and then his car is fine.
It is. He has a nose on my end.
Okay, so I guess he might have lagged out a bit. Might be appearing graphically different. So he's still hanging on in what's assumed to be perfectly fine car, but back up front, nothing has changed here. DeBarro is leading over Timothy Johnson and Dakota Ehrman. All riding along. And how about Daniel Roper too? This is a guy I think we're going to talk a lot about here throughout the season. A big name from Hardline, as well as Thomas Bressie, who will both come over here as that league has ended, as well as Cody Tabor, Casey Shue, just to name a few drivers from there. As well as Tyler Henze, I think that's the major ones. But he's come over here to Fuel to compete and already running in 4th, putting on a fantastic show.
Yeah, those guys up front, I think, are going to stay that way for most of the race. You see, I think, 9 cars who are just out on their own. Yeah, all the way back to Dustin Schwingel in P9. Just out on their own, trying to start to leave the guys behind. Now, it's going to be tough to do that, though, as Adam Jersky actually gets clear of the 90 of... sorry, that's a new name for me. Krobach. I got it. So Jersky kind of leading that bottom charge again to catch back up to the leaders. And you see Eckrish in tow as well as McBride, and looks like the 87 of, we'll get names, Drew Carroll. So those guys in the bottom starting to thin out. And now you see Yazik falling all the way back, Jeff Ward falling all the way back. Those guys on the top, the original pioneers of that top line at the start, falling all the way back. Liam Long all the way back to about, looks like almost 20th position. So actually he is 20th now. So that top line just disintegrated quickly. And you see the 42 is going to even fall further back than 20th. So he is getting freight trained now on his own. We'll see if maybe he can duck in somewhere behind Bresci in front of Cadell. But we'll see. Just that's what I'm talking about, though. You know, in a field of 40 cars where just in general that top line is slower and it takes a lot of power to get working, you're going to see everybody just go to the bottom.
Yeah, and we'll pull up have the onboard here of William Long. He's just completely falling back. You can see cars going by every single second here, and just has no one really to work with. Believe he's got a car in behind him, and yeah, that is, I believe, the 93 of Travis McQuistion, who's come up to help him. And yeah, he's currently back in 28th and was running inside the top 20, so he's falling like a rock right now. And you can see, really, we were talking about that inside line prevailing, and I mean, no kidding, if we can try to get a good shot here of the entire field, you can see everyone from 25th, I think, 29th onwards is single file here, and we're getting ready for the long haul.
Yeah, this is these guys settling in for a 60-lap race instead of a 20-lap race. You see, they're already on lap 11, coming to lap 12, so if this was a 20-lap race, and we're already halfway through it, but there's still 40-some laps to go. Sorry, math is totally my strong suit right now. But no, I mean, these guys have completely fallen to the back. If they stayed on the outside too long, they have gone all the way back like William Long has. Now McQuistion stuck up top as the Untitled Esports guys ditch down to the bottom side and bring Mitchell Welker with them. So the 42 and 93 going to go even further back now. And this is really unfortunate for them, but you know, it creates storylines for us at the very least. So if we're going to get something out of it, well, that's it. And actually, I do want to cover Nick Kohan all the way back in 40th.
Yeah, I just noticed that. I just noticed that too, and I'm going to take this moment to try to find out what happened to him.
And it could actually have something to do with what happened to string the field out.
Alright, so unfortunately I couldn't find what happened. I felt like my sim was about to break, so I decided to give up on that endeavor. But Andrew, if you could do me the favor and trying to find out what happened to him, and we could report on it. But yeah, that's a big thing. Nick Kohan, who's a big name in this series, had a really good run last season, is now fallen off the pace, and he's out to dry. He's currently 14 seconds back from the nearest car, and that's Christopher Matthews, who's also fallen off the pace. And there you can actually see his nose finally back on that car, but he's fallen off the pace as well. So we have 2 cars missing from the lead pack, and actually William Long, he's about to lose the lead pack as well, and again was running up with everyone else, but now here he is in danger of losing the draft.
Yeah, so it happened back on lap 8 with Kohan there, and unfortunately it looks like Jersky was just trying to follow. Adam Jersky just got a little too low and ended up hooking the left rear of Nick Kohan, setting him down to the inside through the grass, and didn't ever go all the way around, saved it, did a great job of hanging on to that race car, and just has fallen completely off the pace now, 29-30 seconds back.
Yeah, Nick Kohan is in danger of falling a lap down. He's currently 30 seconds behind the leaders, and they're already single file, so they're going to be coming up quick here.
And you know, the thing he's going to have to do, a lot of guys don't like it, but he's going to have to stay on the bottom side, or he's going to lose this draft and go another lap down later on if they go green. So he has to stay on the bottom and just disrupt that entire lead draft, or he's just going to go further back. We'll see what he does. You know, at Daytona Talladega, Dale Jr. said it before, you have to be selfish. Hopefully, for his sake, he's selfish. I really think he's going to lose another lap later on if these guys continue to race green. And given the package and given how spread out we are right now, Finian, I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, and I think you're right. He really does need to be cutthroat here. And I mean, he can do so pretty safely. Again, everyone's pretty much single file. So if he stays to the inside, shouldn't really be much of a deal. Everyone should be able to get around him in a clean fashion. But definitely, I think, yeah, he needs to do that to make sure he stays in the draft. If he lets everyone on by, he's just going to get completely freight trained. You actually see him off in the distance. But how about the 43 of Philip Radicic on the outside completely by himself, the only car in the entire field on the outside.
Yeah, he's finally going to slot in ahead of Yazik there, who has Jeff Ward in tow. But yeah, Radicic, I mean, he was doing so good earlier on, and now he falls back in behind Boudinot, so loses a couple of spots there. Nothing too bad, though. Just falls a couple of positions down the order. I think lost 2 spots that lap, so it could have been a lot worse getting hung out on the top side there, but thankfully Yazik was far enough back to let that 43 car in, and crisis averted if you're the 43.
And here we're looking on from up above, from the blimp cam, you can see everyone in line. You can see too the little intricacies, guys diving out, bobbing and weaving on the backstretch, and you see that's all drivers looking on a line trying to find out what's in front of them. And Andrew, you driven these cars last season, you were a competitor last season here. Just explain, you know, try to explain why do drivers like to peek out like that?
Well, the biggest thing, Finian, is, you know, if you stay behind a car too long here, you're going to overheat. That's the biggest thing. The second biggest thing is going to be just visibility. Obviously, if you're behind somebody and you're tucked up, that spoiler is going to get in the way, and you're not going to be able to see what's going on. So you have to be able to see what's going on ahead of you. So between trying to get clean air, you know, seeing what's going on ahead of you, making sure there's not a big checkup, you know, it really just ends up creating opportunities to where you can look and see if there's going to be a run or something going on. It really just has to do with again, you know, looking for air, seeing what's going on. And a lot of times these guys are generally just, you know, following their own line. You can't fix the steering wheel of 2 different cars to the same position. So obviously, you know, that's going to play into it too. Just guys on different degrees of steering in their wheel. You know, it's just that randomness, I guess, of having 40 cars on the track at once, and everybody's going to be steering a different way at every instant.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, Andrew, but here comes the rest of the field over Nick Kohan, who's taking the outside. He's going to be playing it safe here. And, I mean, actually, let's ride on board with Nick Kohan. We'll try to see if he's gaining any speed here. Because, yeah, you can see visually there on the bottom, he's picking up speed. He was pacing himself at around 186, and is trying to fall in line here, but also trying to pick up speed. So you can see him 192, 193, and he's trying to pick up as much speed as possible just from the air going over the cars. 196.
And it's going to help him out a little bit, maybe, but I really think he should have just stayed on the bottom.
Yeah, and it really is a matter of where he's gonna get cycled out. You can see behind him still got a lot of cars to get through. Yeah, he might be able to slot himself in here. It looks like there's an opening, and he will do exactly that. So Nick Kohan finding himself a place in line, however, is a lap down. Unfortunately for him, he is the only car a lap down, but we've gone 20 laps. The entire field is single file. The odds of a caution right now are very slim.
Well, when the field catches Christopher Matthews, you know, unless Chris stays to the bottom, it's going to be quite easy for Nick to be able to try and pass him there. So as long as things fall his way, he could still be the first car lap down if we do ever get a caution. Then he has to worry about, you know, when the field catches William Long and then Kevin Bartel, who actually has lost the lead draft. So now the bottom 4 cars losing the draft, and actually now we have to look to John Wilco and Travis McQuishy and when they'll fall off. Yeah,
and again, it's that last position is a position no one wants to be in. It's probably one of the worst places to be in a pack with this package, because, like we've been talking about all night, it's so hard to lose. It's so easy to lose the draft. If you just a small checkup in line can make you lose it, and you don't want to be the car losing. As you saw, we've lost 4 cars just losing the draft alone. They've fallen out of contention so far. Still got 36 in the lead pack, still going.
Yeah, I think every single car is in the same line right now. Well, I should say same lane. Down around the bottom side, around the double yellow lines. I think every single car, even the guys who are off pace, are down on the bottom. So this is pretty crazy to me to see 40 cars just glued to the double yellow lines, maybe looking around down the straightaways, but for the most part, just stuck down there on the bottom. And if they go anywhere, it's just going to hurt them. Now you see Krobach, actually, the 90 kind of peeking out. He ducks back in behind the 87 of Carroll. He was definitely looking pretty high there down the back straightaway, and he was one of the guys I was referencing when I said they were peaking high, and he kind of surprised me with how high he went.
And back in the pack, Thomas Bresci And the 86 of Tyler Hensley, those guys are teammates. They've peeked out of line. They're trying to go forward.
That or they're trying to go back. We'll see. Logic tells you they want to go forward and gain positions, but you never know. Strategies will surprise you right now. If they are trying to go forward, they're kind of just stagnating. Might be gaining a little bit of ground over Gael to the inside and Jonathan Cadell there as well, but I just don't see him going very far.
Well, I do see a car on behind them. I believe it's the 53 or the 35, sorry, of Dylan Lee, and indeed it is. He's come out of line and he's trying to join up. I think he saw those two cars jump out of line. He wants a piece of it. However, he's a little bit too far to catch their draft and is currently losing time. And speaking of losing time, the 24 and 83 of Hensley are doing exactly that. They're losing time on that outside. Just can't get a run going.
Yeah, the stack-ups down low are going to help these guys out, though. If we were still focused on the back, you saw a bit of a stack-up there at the 25, on back to the 6 of Silman and the 7 of Welker. So those stack-ups are going to be what help the top side out, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough to overcome just the advantage of riding around the bottom and taking the shorter way around the racetrack. And, of course, you know, once everybody figures out that that's the better way to go, no one's going to want to go up high until they have to. So it is a very selfish game you play here at Daytona, and unfortunately it's going to hurt those guys that want to get the top line going.
Yeah, and here's the 92 of Christopher Matthews, who's currently listed as the last car in last place. He actually has fallen behind Nick Kohan here, and he needs to find a place in line here as he's approaching the tail end of the pack. Bressie trying to come up and get a little bit of a draft off of him, but he's dropping like a rock, and if he's not careful, he can lose the draft again.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with Cohen. You know, you have to be aggressive with how you get back in line here. Otherwise, you will lose another lap if these guys continue green, and it's quite likely, unless there's a big stack up, it's quite likely these guys will go green all the way like this, or at least darn near all the way until the end when things really shake up. So you have to be aggressive and selfish, and unfortunately, you know, for Matthews, he just wasn't. You know, I think he had a couple of opportunities, man.
Bressie with a very aggressive move to the inside, and he just slots himself. He decides if it fits, I sit. And he did exactly that. So Bressie going to secure his place at the inside, as well as securing a place for his teammate Tyler Hensley. I think they saw that they were going nowhere. Meanwhile, Brian Green went up to join the outside line, but that's quickly going to die off, and we're going to be single file again. And speaking of being single file here, here's an interesting thing. So we're now approaching halfway. This race has been ticking off. In fact, if we go green to the end of the race, it'll be 25 minutes to the end.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were so far into the race. Yeah. I'm glad you said something. I had no clue we were on lap 26 coming to lap 27. So that's staggering. And there's a hole there for Lee. Will he go low? No, he actually ended up gaining a run on Bressie's. Now, Minto going to try and fill that hole possibly. But again, I have to say, this race has surprised me a bit by how clean the duels were, even as they were double file. And now how clean this race has been. Granted, it's single file mostly, but these guys are doing a great job so far. Now you're seeing Lee finally slot in, maybe, yes, in front of Silliman. So back to single file through the entire field here, Finian.
Yeah, and again, I think I think there's a reason for that. We're approaching lap 27. The pit window has been open. It opened after these guys cross lap 20. So there's a chance we could see pit stops here halfway. These guys can go 40 laps on a tank, so it's kind of up in the air whether or not we can, whether these guys will pit here or will they run the tank out. And what's Andrew? What's the advantage of potentially running the tank out as opposed to pitting it halfway?
Well, I think the biggest thing, you know, if you pit halfway, at least you get that over with first, right? Because I think that'll be when the first guys come in. Is about halfway, maybe a couple laps later. So being first isn't bad because you can just get things out of the way without a hitch. And if a caution comes out later, you don't have to pit. You can go to the front, but keep in mind, you know, these guys, you generally don't practice hitting under green very often at a plate track, or it doesn't happen very often, so these guys might not really know exactly the ins and outs of getting down pit lane at the speed. So, you know, I think the biggest advantage to waiting later on is simply that there might be a wreck down at pit entry, and you can pit under yellow, and you don't have to worry about pitting under green. And it just makes things a lot easier. But I think between the two, if a caution comes out after you pit, pitting earlier might be the better case. As far as, you know, if a caution comes out before, I think pitting later helps you out. And as far as which one gets you positions if everything goes smoothly, it really just depends. Every tenth is going to matter down in the pit lane. So you really can't say which one's better if things go off without a hitch.
Yeah, Halfway now, approaching lap 30, almost just a lap under halfway in the feature race here. It's been very quiet, other than a few little skiffs here at the start with some guys finding each other. But other than that, it's been pretty much incident free here. Going on now, coming to halfway. So I think it's been quiet this first half of the race. But when do you around what lap do you think we're going to see this action pick up? I think probably with 15 to go, I think we're going to see guys start scrambling for position.
Well, I think the rest of the race is going to be kind of that, I guess, trek up to the climax of action, if you will. Realistically, I think this is where things start to pick up, because you have to start wondering about pit stops, and I would not be surprised to start seeing teams work their way down the pit lane now. Looks like the takers up in the, there are no takers up in the front, sorry. I don't know when these guys will come in, but this is when I'd expect them to start working that way. So I'd say within the next couple laps, we might see some takers. And from then on, really, just the action's going to pick up, because then you have to be cutthroat. There's no more laying back and trying to be helpful to guys around you. You have to just take everything you can get. And you're totally right. I think around lap 15 is when you have to start making your moves. Yeah, that's kind of my rule of thumb as a driver when there's a big pack. And here, it's all single file. So, you know, how early do you want to make that move? Possibly even with 20 to go. So it really is just tough to work these plate races in these cup cars.
Indeed it is. And actually towards the back of the pack, starting to see another pack form yet again. And actually, as I say it, it immediately dies out. And these guys trying to move up to the front here. But I think really what we're going to see is the big shakeup is with the green flag running is green flag pit stops. This is really going to break up the field. I don't think we're going to see the field anywhere as strong as we've seen it so far. You can see everyone pretty much in a nice big group. I think it's definitely going to change with pit stops. The guys are going to be missing their pit stalls, sliding through pit road, taking a different strategy on pit road, and being disconnected. So I think we're going to start seeing, once guys start coming down to pit road, we're going to see a lot smaller groups.
Yeah, and keep in mind, you have a lot of big teams in this series, but you also have a lot of guys who are completely independent, a lot of privateers who are just going to be trying to, you know, group in with other guys. So that's really going to shake things up as well. I mean, you have Dakota Ehrman, who's out there entirely on his own, for example. His 703 Racing teammate, Will Roberts, didn't make the show. So, you know, guys like him are going to have to try and tag along with other teams and other groups that come into pit. That's going to shake things up as well. And again, every little thing in pit lane is going to dictate the way the rest of this race goes. It's going to dictate whether or not we have a big enough group for a caution, dictate whether or not we actually go green. So every little thing is going to matter in the pit lane whenever these guys do come in. I'm surprised it's taken this long so far. Last season in this race, half the field had already pitted at this point.
Yeah, indeed. I think these guys are going to run the tank down, and there's, I think, a very good reason for that. I think these guys want to make sure that there's very little chance of a yellow flag coming out. Because if they pit while the yellow flag comes out, there's a chance it can end up a lap down that could really set them off or put them in the back of the pack, and no one really wants that. So I think they're going to run this tank out to minimize the chance of a caution coming out under green flag pit stops. So that way they can be on the jump, or at least wait till people pit and then cause a yellow, so that way they can be at the front of the field. I think that's the strategy in everyone's mind, and it's really a matter of who's going to start the cycle.
Well, shoot, Finian, the best thing is to be in pit lane when the caution comes out, because then you can cycle back around to the lead when these guys have to pit. So, you know, in terms of that happening, you want it to happen when you're in the pits, but you don't want to be involved in that wreck when it happens. So I think that's what you have to balance mostly is, you know, when you pit, as far as, you know, who you're pitting around, because sometimes you come in with a guy who you haven't pitted with before. Again, I mean, you don't really practice it that often, and suddenly you have a big wreck, big jump down in the pits. I mean, I came in backwards last season when we had this pit stop, just because, again, I wasn't entirely well versed in green flag pitting, and I didn't expect it with 40 cars out there. But you know, it happened, and I came in backwards, had to throw it in reverse and pull a J-turn in pit lane. So again, every little thing matters. And actually, just watching through the middle of the field, and that was interesting there from the 34 trying to side draft the 21 at Cohen. But really, things just, it's the calm before the storm, Finian. I mean, these guys, they have to come in soon. When do they come in? And right now, it's just, again, single file. You have guys looking high, looking low, but nothing's really happening.
And how about watching
pit
penalties
hello.
on pit exit? Hey, Finian, how's it going, Andrew? I'm talking about pit road and especially the pit exit here, Finian. As you're trying to get yourself through the gears and stay hooked up with your teammates, you got to keep that car below the yellow line until the exit of turn number 2. You don't want to get yourself a penalty here on pit exit. You'll mess up the entire race strategy.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, I want to just take this time, since this race is really common, right before we get the green flag pit stops. I haven't mentioned this guy's name at all tonight. That's the 46 of Greg Evans. He's last season's champion, and he's had a very quiet race along with pretty much the rest of the field here. Driving the 46 this season, switched over from the 2. Has got a new number, and looking forward to a second championship, maybe back-to-back here for that 46. Also, Thomas George, another driver, looking forward to a good season. Here in the 9 car, came in late last season and had some few shines of greatness. Also looking forward to a strong season. And one last driver I got to mention, I haven't talked much about, Mitchell Welker in the 7. Currently mired back in 33rd. Hopefully he can move up through the field. Was last season IndyCar champion, making his start here tonight, and actually has a crew chief on board. So Cal, if you at any point in time want to catch his crew chief, Zach Buchanan, who's another fellow competitor and friend of ours, catch him at any time so we can potentially have a chat with him, maybe on strategy.
Oh, I'll be sneaking. I'll be poking around. Don't worry.
Come back to the front of the field, and here we go. Pit stops are underway. The guys make the peel off the pit road. And
you saw Thomas George, Greg Evans head down. You see Rhett McBride as well, so some teammates making the move down early.
0-1 cars spun out as well as a 33.
Oh yeah, and big damage to John Rodden in the 33 to his nose. And this is what we were talking about here, making sure you don't make any mistakes, and that's race-ending damage for that 33, and several drivers sliding through the pit stop trying to get in. Ooh, notably Mitchell Welker constantly sliding through his pit stop trying to get in. He's going to lose a lot of time.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't even cut time with how much fuel you take your tires. I mean, a full set of fuel and a full set of tires, language, takes the same amount of time. So you can't really cut time there. You know, once you screw up.
Oh, and here's group number 2 coming down to pit road. Everyone getting on the brakes.
Oh,
contact the 76 of Rick Thompson.
There.
Rick Thompson, around in the infield, last season's winner at Daytona, is spinning through the grass. He's going to get a black flag and is trying to get that car under control. But several drivers having problems here, and it's a lot to keep track of.
And these leaders, I think, are going to be coming in this time by. You have DeBarro, Johnston, Ehrman, Roper up front, who are still a 4-car group. Now passing some slower cars. Can they actually make it down to the pit lane? Looks like they should be able to, so this will be interesting here as well as the leaders come in.
And here it comes DeBarro on the binder. See the field behind him checking up, either going another lap or slowing down. And DeBarro sideways. Wow.
Oh, big wreck.
Oh, big wreck behind them in pit road. The 78, the 61 around. Nick Kohan also involved, who's a lap down. And they're still making contact on pit road. That's Daniel Roper and Dakota Ehrman, who are guys leading these races pretty much. Involved in a wreck.
Their races. That's their race over. Ehrman, his front is totally destroyed. His nose is destroyed.
And where's the leading pack? Here's Rich Jett still leading the last few cars out there. And is still yet to make a trip down pit road.
Yeah, and Cadell and Brooks have already made their way down the pit lane, so Jett going to be pitting on his own here this time by. That's never what you want to have happen. Coming in on your own is the worst. But to be fair, he won't get caught up in an incident, so at least his car isn't damaged. So if we have a caution later on, he has a chance to make spots back up. But now you have to turn your eyes back to the current, I guess, lead pack if things cycle out. That's going to be led by Eckrich, actually. Eckrich and Drew Carroll, I think, just might be the leaders when this thing cycles out. I mean, they're ahead of guys like Greg Evans and
yeah, and there you see them passing some slower traffic. The 86 and the 47. He just blows on by them. That's John Burst and Dustin Swingle there on the inside. And there you see this pack forming up. But ahead of them is Timothy Johnson, who's out by himself. Ahead of these guys, made his pit stop in. And he's got a comfortable lead, although he's going to be swallowed up by this lead pack. Here's Rich Jett on the bottom trying to get back up to speed. And if we can go on his gearbox, he's got the field approaching there in his mirrors.
Yeah, so Jett actually going to be able to, I think, possibly try and tag on to this draft. It's going to be tough. They're actually coming. No, there's no way he'll be able to get in with them, I don't think. It's going to be close, though.
He's going to hold the inside. They're going to have to blow by on the outside here. They come with a full head of steam. Scott Actors is going to blow or by them on the outside. He's going to take the lead of this race.
Yeah, and Rich Jett might be able to maybe tag on to the end, but I don't think it's going to happen. Now you see, looks like Johnson and Schwingle going on by, Borst even, trying to work their way by, but you know, that's what we were talking about, Finian. These green flag pit stops shake things up, and if you aren't coordinated, if you aren't well versed in exactly what to do, You try and come down through the gears a little too quickly when you're still slowing down, and that's what happens. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
You try and get down through the gears too quickly, and it's wheel hop, just like on a road course. It's wheel hop, and it spins you out. And that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, and here looking at Anthony DeBarro, who was leading this race, he's all the way back in 26th. Another look also at a bunch of drivers who lost a lot of time. Dean Doucette's also back in 27. Justin Rodden, who was beaten, banged on pit road, he's also back there. There you see Adam Jersky, Brandon Minto, Mitchell Welker, they all lost a lot of time. Tyler Hensley also back here. Dakota Ehrman we saw spun around. John Wilco, Rick Thompson also spun around. Kevin Bartel was a lap down, and actually trying to find where missing a driver in that lineup there. But a lot of drivers just shaking up there. I didn't expect the race to be shaken up like that, but it was completely turned on its head. You can see the front of the field looks almost completely different to how it was before pit stops began.
Well, it's almost a carbon copy of last year, well, last season rather. If you go back, we had a green flag race that we just didn't quite expect. You don't think to practice for that ahead of time because with so many cars and so many new faces, you don't think you're going to go green that long, but then you do, and suddenly you're trying to get down through the gears and slow down and make it all happen at once. And if you haven't done it a million times before, you're going to mess up. And even if you have done it a million times before, it happens in NASCAR still, where the veterans of the Cup Series come in and just mess up on pit entry. So it's a really easy thing to do, unfortunately, to mess up like that. But it's going to benefit those guys in the front. I mean, Scott Eckridge started 14th in this race, and until now, everybody who started on pole, be it the duels or now the feature, had led every single lap of the race. DeBarro had led the entire Duel 1, had led the entire race up to those pit stops, and Ehrman led all of Duel 2. So now we finally have a different leader other than the pole sitter. And now if you actually look through that top, I think 8 cars, they are all Camaros.
Yeah.
All Camaros.
Yeah, so Camaro's up towards the front of the field. And actually, let's just take a look here. I'm going to go from the different onboards of the leaders here. Scott Eckridge started back in 14th, and we'll see Drew Carroll started back in 18th. Krobach started in 19th, seeing a pattern here. Brian Yaksik started back in 9th. Jeff Ford back in 10th. Greg Evans in 6th. Thomas George 7th. Red McBride 8th. And that's going to round out this lead pack that we have here of 9 drivers. Red McBride starting back in 22nd, currently up to 8th. And in one of the last cars in this lead pack, actually him and Thomas George are actually currently falling off the pace. That there actually looks like they might lose the leaders here, but Timothy Johnson also behind with the 47, Justin Swingle. There you see the 86, John Boris, and Rich Jett still losing spots here. Just completely swallow up, can't find any place to be. Everyone just keeps on blowing by him.
And you can't blame him because you have to be cutthroat. You have to be selfish here. I talked about it earlier. Dale Jr. has said you have to be selfish. You have to take every opportunity you get at places like Daytona and Talladega. And that's what we're seeing these guys do. If you look further back, going back through the field like you were, Finian, Dylan Lee just ahead of Travis McQuistion. These guys will be the next cars to catch up to that 77 of Rich Jett. Then you look back to the 05, Derek Paulson, who's actually just ahead of lap car Nick Kohan, who I think is still in the hot seat. No, Kevin Bartel, actually in the hot seat for our lucky dog position. So
here comes McQuistion.
Go to the 51.
And McQuistion looking to the outside of the 35. One of the first cars we've seen try to make a move to the outside here. And I think this is really not what they need to do for this little pack here. I think they need to try to make sure that they can...
They need to stay single file.
Yeah, they need to stay single file. I don't think I can explain how much speed you lose staying side by side. And caution out on the track. Oh, and it's involving Tyler Hensley in the 25 of Brandon Minto on the back straightaway. Huge damage to his car. And this turns everything on its head. Let's take a replay. So here's the 25 and the 46 in the pack here. This also might involve Mitchell Welker here as well. See a lot of movement there. Oh, the 69 of Jersky. Hook, the 0-1. Around he went, and a lot of cars taken out as well.
And unfortunately, my replay function isn't quite cooperating at the moment. I'm going to have to go back to the actual broadcast here to check that one out. But I mean, that, like you said, that changes everything as far as strategy goes. That turns the entire race over on its head.
Yeah, and here we're riding on board with Adam Jersky here. You see him, I think, just got a little bit of a clip of the 0-1, clipped him into the wall. He went, and around he goes, and everyone in that small 5-car pack was involved.
Yeah, Finian, actually, the 0-1 car had some rear-end damage, and I think what happened is that 69 tried to push him, and it just caught that damage. There's just the right angle to hook that car around. I think to be able to bump draft effectively, those bumpers need to be clean and have no damage on them.
Yeah, let's take a final replay from Mitchell Welker, who was just kind of hanging on in this pack here. And you see him here just riding along there. You see the 69 go to the outside of the 01, hooks him into the wall, and nowhere for Welker to go. Did a pretty good job of trying to avoid any other contact from drivers, but has got some decent amount of damage to his nose and is going to have to repair that under caution. Speaking of which, let's catch back up to the field as they catch the leaders. And what we saw becoming almost a nine horse race here has opened up back to the rest of the field. And I'm kind of curious here, do we dare see any pit stops at the front? I think you're kind of a fool if you're a guy in the top here coming to the pits, and I don't see any takers, and yep, looks like everyone's going to stay out.
Yeah, everyone's got their fuel to go to the end of the show. Unless you have damage, really, there's no reason to come down the pit lane unless you want tires as far as making moves later. But even in that regard, Finian, you know, these guys have been out there in just single file so far, so really their tires aren't going to be that worn. So they're still going to be able to make moves. That's really the only reason you would take tires here is to give you a little more agility in case you have to make a move, be it to go for a position or to miss a wreck. So that's really the only advantage to having tires here, I think. As far as pit stops go, really, it's just a matter of making sure you have fuel to go to the end, and everyone should if they got past lap 40. So everyone's got fuel. It's really just a matter of hitting damage now.
Yeah, and speaking of fixing damage here, we're looking at Daniel Roper pulling into his pit stall. Man, talking about a top day going upside down for him. Started in 5th, ran great in duel number 1. And now back mired in 28th, trying to fix some damage on pit road. And I've seen Roper drive in the Hardline Cup Series. The man was leading almost every single week. And this has got to be a little heart-wrenching here, and going to be a thorn in his side for the start of this season for that 61 car. Because I'm telling you, this man is fast. And at the other ovals we're going to see him at this season, I think he's going to be the guy fighting for the win week in, week out. But right now here at Daytona, he's going to be struggling.
Finny, I do have an update on the number 7 of Mitchell Welker. He's going to roll the dice here a little bit and not pit. He's just going to hope that there's more yellows in quick succession here and not go down to pit road and fix that damage. He's just going to try to get the positions as he can get them.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a look at Mitchell Welker's car. It looks, I mean, as far as damage is concerned, I've seen a lot worse on the nose of cars than guys still maintaining in the draft. And I think really the key here for the 7-car Mitchell Welker, he has to make sure that he stays in behind a car. I think engine-wise, I think his car seems to be fine. It's really that bodywork that's going to be hurting him. If he can stay in behind the air of other drivers, I think he should be fine. But as soon as he gets in front of air by himself, he's going to lose a ton of time. So he's got to find some people to work with and try to go up to the front, although it's going to be a tall order from 26th when we're only going to have a few laps to go.
Well, you know what, Finney? If anyone in this field is going to know about keeping damaged parts of their car out of the air, it's going to be Mitch, considering he is the reigning IndyCar champion.
Ooh.
And aero push, well, actually, that was close. Cohen getting a lap there, going back to the back, actually.
I thought he hit the wall.
Yeah, well, going back to Mitch Welker, you know, if anyone's going to know about keeping damaged parts of a car out of air, it's going to be him. Everything about being good in an Indy car is about air. You have to keep your wings clean, you have to keep your side pods clean, you have to keep every part of that car clean and work the air, especially on ovals. So as far as working the air here, that's going to be a bit of an advantage to him, but realistically, you know, these guys have done it so many times, I think they'll all be decently good at it. But no, I think it's going to be an advantage for him just knowing how to work the air and keep that nose out of the clean air and just try and stay behind cars and actually try and work that draft.
Yeah, no, I think probably the guy who's going to be in the catbird seat on this restart is not normally a driver I would say would be in the catbird seat, and that's got to be Scott Eckrich leading this race. I mean, the man did his pit stop strategy to a T, found himself in the lead, and I think he's going to be in a great spot looking forward. We've seen the pole sitter be in a very favorable position throughout the duels and throughout the night. As really no one was able to challenge DeBarro up front, although we were single file, and I think from here on out, probably not going to see a lot of single file action. I think these guys are going to probably be on top of their game, as I think the pace car lights are going to go out this time by, and we're going to get a restart with 9 laps to go. So I think right now, we were talking earlier, 15 laps to go, we're going to see guys peeling out. We're well within that now. Pace car lights should be off this time by, and indeed they are. We're going to get a restart with 9 laps to go.
Yeah, and I'm really curious what the feel is down in team pits, you know, as far as what do you do here? You know, we've been talking about going to the bottom all night long, and even on that real late restart we had in duel number 1, we didn't get to see a whole lot happen. We saw those guys try and work that, I guess, work the restart to their advantage, and then suddenly it was over. So, you know, what do you do here? Obviously, the bottom's better, but you're not going to go anywhere. Just stay on the bottom side. You have to go up high and make something happen up there. But, you know, do you have the guys around you can make it work with? So that would be interesting as far as, you know, just knowing, I guess, getting a little bit of insight to the team pits, you know, what they're trying to do. Because if they can organize something on the top side, they might have something. You see, actually, a few guys who worked the top earlier on in this race, actually up on the top side right now. You see Drew Carroll, Brian Yazik, even Greg Evans, Thomas George up on the, well, not Thomas George, sorry, Brett McBride on the top, who worked the top earlier in this main event. So we'll see if maybe they can get something going on. It's tough to say though, Finian. Realistically, yeah, I don't know. It's tough to make a prediction for these last 9 laps, considering we've seen just about everything so far.
Yeah, all right, now time to set the top 10 for this final restart. Scott Eckridge is going to lead the field of green. Drew Carroll on his outside. Then we have Michael Krobach inside, 55 Brian Yasek, then Jeff Ward, Greg Evans, Thomas George, Brett McBride, Timothy Johnson, Justin Swiggle. Going to round out your top 10. The pace car is going to be in for what hopefully would be the final time. Going to make the turn off to pit road. We're going to get ready to go green here. 9 laps to go. It's all in the It's all on the table right now. Green flag back in the air.
And a huge launch for Eckridge. It would be good for Drew Carroll to drop in behind him right now, but I think he loses that advantage. Trying to get down, gets in front of the 90. Good job there on the 87 there to get in the line in second place. That's huge for him, because otherwise he would have, I think, gone to the back. Even if they could have got that top line working, he would have lost some quick positions there. Now you see Yazik drop in as well.
Yeah, you can see a lot of guys bailing off to the inside line where it's safe, although again, these guys can't be too safe for too long. They gotta make the pass somehow, otherwise this race is gonna fall into the hands of Scott Eckridge.
Yeah, and we see guys in the comments even talking about the draft package and how hard it is to pass, and that's been the story all night long, really. Even, you know, during the green flag.
Oh, Thomas George making a drastic move to the outside. He's going to cut the nose of the 46 of Greg Evans off.
Yeah, picking up guys he wants to work with there. So, you know, that's what it's going to take though on the top side. Is you're going to have to have guys that you want to work with and can work with and know well in order to make that work. And now you see guys like Jonathan Cadell and Richard Jack going to the top side. So that's going to shake things up in the mid-pack. You see now Dylan Lee filling that hole. So, you know,
yeah, that outside line.
Guys going high, trying to make something happen, but immediately that bottom line is filling in.
Yeah, but there you see a lot of guys bailing up to the top now. They realize it's time to go. It's crunch time right now, and they're all being led right now. Trying to see who that is ahead. It's Thomas George still leading them, and I wonder if we're going to see anyone up here at the top of the field try to jump up and join.
Yeah, you see them trying to make something happen up there. Now Gael Brooks up in the top lane. I think that's no, that's not about. That's still Cadell. I think in the caboose of that top lane. 5 cars up there, but it's just not enough. They need more of a push up on the top side. Now you see Greg Evans kind of looking low a little bit, holding that bottom side back just a tiny bit. I guess giving himself an out if he needs it. Now he goes back up high with McBride and George there, but. Realistically, I just don't know if there's anything they can do. It's just too little too late. I don't know if they have enough laps to really mount a big run from the top side, because it really does take a lot of chemistry to get it going. And now we're coming around to 6 laps to go. It's going to be tough. If they can get something going, they're going to get there right with about 1 or 2 laps to go here, Finian. And at that point, you have to take every move you can get. Oh, actually contacted the 96 and 9 possibly. As we came to the trial, they got real close. If not, they'd contact them.
Yeah, and there you see the outside lane was starting to die out a bit. There you see Gail Brooks still on the outside there with, I believe, is the 65 car, sorry, of Jonathan Cadell. Still out there trying to make some ground. But yeah, these guys are really not going anywhere here. They're stuck midfield. They're not making any ground. And I think right now, if they don't get any momentum, they're going to start losing it up front. But back up front, Scott Eckridge still leading over Drew Carroll and Michael Krobach. Those are your top 3 there. You see Brian Yaksik and Jeff Ward rounding out your top 5. But you see guys from the back. How about Tim Silman in the back there all the way? And I'm trying to find what place he's in 21st in the back of this pack, trying to work something on the outside line, trying to get these guys to move up and trying to make something happen. 5 laps to go at Daytona.
And the unfortunate thing here is if you're sitting second place, if you're Drew Carroll, you want to try and make a move, but if you do, unless that car behind you is your teammate, you're not going to have any help. And if you don't have any help here to go to the top side, you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to go straight to the backside of the field. So it really is unfortunate with this package that you can't really make a move. We see a couple of guys go up high now. It looks like, man, that number is kind of hard to read. I think that is the
86.
86 of Borst, yeah, and Schwingel actually went high with him as well. So
yeah, they're trying to make something happen. They're trying to make something happen here.
They have to. They have to go somewhere. You know, but it's just, I don't know if it's going to work. They have to go somewhere though.
Yeah, Swingle being closed out to the inside by the 96 of Josh Gallagher. He's saying, "You made your move. You're gonna stick with it." Swingle's gonna try to lead this outside lane, and again,
a big stack up top.
Yeah, big stack up indeed from the back here, and those are guys trying to push from the back, but you can't really push if there's a guy ahead of you, because you'll end up turning him if you're not careful. So it's a very hard dynamic to work with here. 4 laps to go, coming to 3.
Well, that's what we're saying as far as this top line has to be coordinated, and if you make one of those mistakes, that's going to kill the entire top lane. So there's really no room for that error. Unfortunately, it's easy to happen, but there's no room for it. As far as guys moving forward on the bottom side, you see this is bringing us 28 back into things. That's Timothy Johnston, one of the big contenders from 2018, as far as the previous season of the Fuel Cup Series. And now as we get ready for, well, we're actually in now Season 2 with HostVenom on the series, but we'll see what he can do throughout the rest of the season. But right now, I mean, he's making positions.
This is the race for the fight for the win here. If a caution comes out, the race is going to be over, and I can imagine that Scott Hackrich wants nothing but this race to end where it is with him in the lead, because right now, if anyone behind him decides to jump out here, he's a sitting duck.
Yeah, realistically, well, I don't know. I mean, if only one car goes in, it'd have to be, again, a coordinated effort, and I don't know if that's going to be easy to muster up realistically. I don't know how easy it's going to be to make something happen and actually go forward, although you see Dustin Schwingel starting to gain some ground on the outside, now at least alongside of, looks like the 89 of Jeff Ward, so he at least went somewhere for a little while, though, throughout the corner. The inside kind of picks back up a little bit. We'll see if down the straightaway they can make something happen.
Yeah, here's the 86. He was getting air to his nose off of 2, and he's on the back bumper of Schwingel. He's trying to push him all the way to the front. They got a big race. Here comes Krobach to the outside.
That's the move that had to be made, though. You have to go somewhere. Now Schwingel's going to have to deal with pushing that 90. If he goes high, it's going to kill the run. We're coming to the white flag this time. You have to go. You have to just go. If you're going to run on somebody in the corner, just lay it to the bumper.
Here they come across the line. White flag is in the air. 1 lap to go here at Daytona. They're going to fight it to the end. If a caution comes out, they still race it out.
Well, caution won't come out now, and Scott Eckridge really just wants these guys to wad it up behind him, I bet. And that 87 of Drew Carroll sitting pretty in second. Now you see the 47 looking low. Schwingel trying to get by the 90. Now goes back high as the 90 goes down low, but he has no help on the top side. Schwingel trying to make something happen, just has no help yet. That 86 is a little ways back. Now the 28 joining the fray as well. We'll see if he can get by the 47 by the time the lap is over. But the top 4 out and alone, I don't think they make a move. Big wreck!
Big wreck behind them, but here they come, race to the line. Scott Eckridge going at the block. Here comes the 87 to the bottom. Carroll can't go anywhere. It's going to be Scott Eckridge at the line. He will win at Daytona.
And a massive junk behind them going to mess with the entire running order. We'll get it to you as it comes across, but wow. A massive, massive junk. We still have cars trying to cross the start-finish line.
Yeah, indeed it is, and we're going to have to take a lot of replays here as we try to catch who's going, what happened there at the end.
It started really close to the leaders, actually. Man.
Yeah, riding on board with Tim Silman right now as they come, and there you see the, wow, big wreck midfield. Many drivers involved, Greg Evans being one of them. And man, yeah, so many cars involved.
Thomas George just laid the bumper to the 86, and you have to do that. You have to go somewhere, but unfortunately, it just turned him around.
And that 35 car took a massive impact to that outside safer barrier and took flight, got all 4 tires off the ground, pirouetting through the air, and that just junked everybody behind there. Just nothing you can do, and at that point, it doesn't matter. Just got to hold that pedal to the floor and get to the checkers.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the game you have to play, but I mean, it's what it comes down to. Out of the final corner, you have to just lay the pedal down.
Yeah, and here you're looking at the replay there. You see the 86 in frame. Gets a bump from the 9 of Thomas George, and man, oh, the 35 hard lick into the wall. And everyone else involved there. You see Bresci making it through without a nose on his car, and the 86 spinning to the inside. And man, unfortunate break for him and a lot of these drivers involved in that wreck. But it's going to be. But as we cut back live, it's going to be Scott Eckridge who's going to be taking home the win here, doing the burnouts at Daytona. And man, did he earn it!
Yeah, he just did everything he had to do under those green flag pit stops, got to the lead, and held it from then on. They literally got the lead after Navarro and just...
Oh, Eckridge actually just blew his engine.
Hey, you don't need the motor no more. You finished the race.
Indeed he did, and he's going to celebrate here. Great win from him, and while he's celebrating, we're going to cut to break, and we're going to pull up interviews for your race winner and notable drivers. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And man, what a finish to that race. And we have here your race winner, Scott Eckridge, in the 70. And man, Scott, what a race was. Tell me, really, how are you able to get yourself to get such a good pit stop in that got you up to the front? Walk us through that.
Yeah, we kind of knew from, watching the duels and, right at the beginning of that, the race there with how Dizzy Motorsports was kind of controlling the front there, that if we wanted to have a chance to get back up there, we were going to have to make sure we nailed our pit stops. And luckily, a bunch of us had been practicing that real hard in practice, kind of trying to, assuming that was going to be where, the race was going to be won or lost. So we just, made sure we had our brake points in, and we drove it super deep and got in our pit boxes smooth, and we made sure we got back together real quick and just, passed the whole field as a group there.
Yeah, so were you before at the end of the race there, were you concerned that you were going to get passed, or well, you did have an attempt at someone had an attempt at it, but were you worried about guys mounting a charge on you, or did you figure that with the way the package was that you were pretty set in stone coming to the white flag?
Yeah, unfortunately, the package makes passing just super, super challenging. So I had hoped, you never know what's going to happen. People are pretty crazy. You can get stuff working if you really, really focus on it. So we were relieved to see that that white flag come up and not see that outside line next to us or anything like that. So and I knew if I just threw a little tiny block that I would probably be able to keep my teammates behind me. But we were just trying to work together and get a good result.
All right, thank you, Scott, for talking with us, and good win. Have fun celebrating your win at Daytona. Hope to see you around for more wins after this.
Thank you.
All right, now we're talking to Drew Carroll, your second place finisher. And Drew, man, you had a hell of a run out of 4. You almost had a shot at it. But walk us through those last laps, what was going through your head, and how you were planning that race finish.
I was planning it that I was going to be ahead of him coming to the line, but we're just LPM, Loud Pedal Motorsports, just worked so well together today. I was just trying to set up Scott. We kind of all agreed that we were going to have a race to the end if it was all of us there, and I was just trying to get a little bit of a run down the backstretch. With this draft model, it's just so hard to do anything when you're by yourself, really. And I kind of got a run on him. I was like, I'm going to take it to the outside, see what could happen. It just kind of didn't amount to anything, but the only thing I could have changed was coming in first, but today was a great day. I'm glad we made it in the show. Glad we ran so well. It's a great way to kick off the year.
Yeah, and I gotta ask, so we saw in that last run after the caution came out, that last run to the finish, that outside lane was starting to build up some momentum. So how did it come up to you? Were you going to jump onto that outside lane, or would you have stayed in behind Scott Eckrich and try to do something else?
The outside lane didn't really have that much momentum all day, so I was just kind of content riding there on the bottom and just kind of waiting for that final corner, try to move like I did. As long as they had like a big run, I was going to pop up there, but they never really got to at least my back bumper, besides, Michael Krobach stepping out there. But, I was just trying to mind my P's and Q's on the bottom lane, just try to bide my time as best I could down there. And luckily it was able to pay off.
All right, that was Drew Carroll, a second place finisher. Thanks for talking to us, Drew, and hope to see you around next week.
Thank you, fellas. Just want to thank Clipping That Apex and Loud Metal Motorsports for all the hard work. We'll be back at Kansas next week.
All right, now our next interviewer, I gotta apologize for saying his name wrong the entire broadcast. Brian Yazik came in third. And Brian, walk us through that finish there. We saw many drivers try something different at the end there, but it was no bite. What was going through your head trying to plan out a final run to the finish?
Really what it boiled down to there, Finian, we were shocked when we came off of pit road and we pretty much had the top 5 spots. So from there, we kind of, all of us at the Loud Pedal Motorsports are working together to kind of get to the end. We knew we didn't want to mess it up. The caution kind of sent us for a worry, but we got a good start there, and everybody worked together as a team, and that was the whole goal, was to get all of us to finish in the top 5 like that. It's a hell of a way to start the season for us at Loud Pedal Motorsports.
Yeah, all right. And I asked this next question to Drew Carroll, and I'm kind of interested in your opinion as well. If that outside lane, which was starting to build up a little bit of a run towards the end of the race, if it was able to catch up to you, would you have jumped up in that outside lane, or would you have stayed single file and tried something else at the finish?
I mean, it got to the rear bumper of my HPP Camaro, but I don't know. I put on the team owner hat, and I was going to be committed to the bottom and pushing those guys out, because I knew, because they got up to the rear bumper of me, and then it just kind of faded back real fast. Then Krobach jumped up there. He was trying to do a couple different things, and that worked out. But I would have stayed. I would have kept right in line with our HPP simulation Camaro.
All right, thank you for talking with us, Brian, and we'll hope to see you next week. And I promise I'll try to pronounce your name right next week.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. Kansas is a good track for us. I know Scott and myself really like going there. See if we can make it 2 for 2 for Loud Pedal Motorsports, and get all of our new friends, new partners. Global Exchange Technologies, Thumbs Up Cancer Down, which is a wonderful charity that helps out not only for research but actually day-to-day things for cancer survivors and cancer people that are dealing with that. So it's a great charity. If you haven't looked at them, check them out on Facebook. I can't speak wonders enough for them. Loud Pedal Motorsports once again, 1 through 5. That's a great way to start the season.
All right, thanks for talking with us, Brian.
Absolutely, have a good one.
All right, and that's gonna round out our interviews for tonight. And man, I gotta say that race pretty damn quiet.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a tame race, I think, in terms of Daytona races, but still, I mean, it had its fair share of excitement in the last 20 laps. Just those first 40 getting there, it's almost like an endurance race when you think about it. The start was kind of crazy, but the middle part of that race, Finian, just I didn't realize it was suddenly halfway. It was just, I don't know, man. And the middle part of the race, I'm trying to say here, is just it's so single file and everything that you can't do anything. If you go out of line, you're going to go all the way to the back, and it's just the unfortunate issue with this package. It is what it is, though. And at the end of the day, you come down and Scott Eckridge is the winner, given what everybody had in front of them. So, props to that team for putting the 70 P1. Then, Drew Carroll, Brian Yazik coming across second and third, and it was a mess out of turn 4, though. You got to say. It was a hell of a mess out of turn 4.
Indeed, it was a wreck at the end there, and almost a drag race to the line. Guys trying to get around each other, but yeah, definitely we've seen that this package is so hard to pass here, and probably this will be one of the last few times that we're gonna see this package. We're supposedly getting the new package in the March build, I hope, with the Mustang. But fingers crossed that we can get some better plate racing, because yeah, definitely single file. We heard the drivers complain about passing. We endlessly hear about it all night long. I'm sure they're all complaining about it. We heard too that drivers weren't tempted to go on the outside line. They just didn't see it as viable to make the pass of the lead. So, but nonetheless, great race there. Very clean race nonetheless. And we'll hope to see everyone next week at Kansas. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week for the Fuel Cup Series.